After this 36-page report by Professor Frimpong-Boateng was leaked, there was one aspect of the report that Professor Frimpong-Boateng talks about certain forest reserves being given to, or mining companies being given access to forest reserves to prospect. This is the part of the report. It says, through Charles Owusu, the Director of Operations at the Forestry Commission, Sir John, the late, had Chinese gangs doing mining on his behalf. The issue about rosewood exploitation is something that is beyond the scope of this report. It says he remembers that at a meeting in the conference room of the president, he told the president in the presence of Sir John that he is the greatest danger to the forests of Ghana. That's Professor Frimpong-Boateng. Here's what we've got. A number of letters and indeed concerns that the EPA raised between 2018 and 2019. The number of entry permits that were given by the Forestry Commission to certain companies. My colleague Dennis Wedam has exclusive detail of these documents that we've secured. Dennis, first off, let's start off with the EPA's concerns, okay? What did the EPA say about the number of entry permits between 2018 and 2019 that were given by the Forestry Commission to companies, mining companies, to enter forest reserves in this country?
Well, so the EPA raised on red flags. There's sought to suggest that it was alarming the number of requests they were getting with respect to mining companies that were given permits entry into forest reserves. They admitted that even though it was allowed in law, within a certain remit for companies to mine within forest reserves, the numbers that were coming to them were too many. And in their view, something ought to be done. In all, so this is a correspondence that I have before me, a correspondence between a mining company and then the EPA. This mining company had got entry permits. It had got the prospecting license. It needed the impact assessment, permit from the EPA. And then in the correspondence, the EPA was forced to state its position on this particular issue.
Right.
This is dated February 20, 2019. But the request was made somewhere in June 2018. Now, the EPA, having been forced to state its position on this matter, like explained, and if you permit me, there's a part of it that reads, and I think that's what is projected
on the screen there.
On the screen, yes, where the EPA talks about a growing concern in the upsurge in the numbers of the forest entry permits used by the Forestry Commission. And it goes on and on, talking about 47. And now this 47 number, it rings a bell, considering where we started this conversation from on Thursday. If you remember Prof's original document, which has took this whole conversation, he talks about the major challenges he had dealing with or working as the chair of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining.
That's right.
One of the key things he indicated was the fact that all the 47 forest reserves were given out to mining companies, either to do prospecting or we're giving prospecting license or recognizance license. So this is testament to the fact that indeed there were these kind of issues happening in there. It doesn't just end there. Now there was an attachment of a list of all the mining companies that were operating in these forest reserves. So they give you a column of the name of the company, a name of the forest reserve, the location of the forest reserve, the date of issue, and the date of expiry of the permit that was given. In some instances, and if you read that document carefully, there's a part where some of the entry permits were even given far beyond the allowable space. So if they were supposed to be given for just 1 year, there are instances where they were given for a 3-year period.
I see.
And that was alarming for the EPA.
And indeed, that's the details that you see there. And we're providing, this is a page in a document that the EPA wrote, correct?
Yes.
The EPA, is it a letter or a document they wrote to the Forestry Commission?
It's a memo.
It's a memo.
Yes.
They wrote to the Forestry Commission.
Exactly.
I see. And the details
and the subject of the memo was position of the agency. Agency in here refers to the Environmental Protection Agency on proposed exploration activities in forest reserves. And that's the extract that we are reading there. So supposedly to state its position that this issue of mining in forest reserves or prospecting or exploration in forest reserves is becoming too alarming and that it needs to be looked at.
I see. And they say since February 2018 to date, a total of 47 copies of such forest entry permits have been received by the agency. And they attach the list.
Yes.
And that's the list we have, correct?
Yes.
Great. And in addition, one of these permits has been issued for a 3-year period, as opposed to the previous term of 1 year. So they flagged something there that it's gone beyond even the allowable period of 1 year. They have 3 years. The agency has also received a renewed forest entry permit with the same 3-year validity period. And it continues that in view of the environment sensitivity of these forest reserves and in the light of illegal full-scale mining operations being clandestinely undertaken in some forest reserves under the guise of prospecting, it is critical that the agency carefully considers this phenomenon to shape its decision on this issue. Remember this part, Professor Frimpong-Boateng raised a concern in his report that there were some mining companies that have been given prospecting licenses, but they were actually mining.
Yeah.
And this, the EPA corroborates in this memo.
Exactly.
That per their own investigations, there are companies mining with prospecting licenses.
Sure.
Correct? That's the EPA's
That's what
report.
the EPA is saying. And when you look through the correspondence between the EPA and then the Forestry Commission on this matter, it is very obvious. And this generally has been a point of dispute as to whether companies with prospecting licenses are actually mining or they are doing prospecting. And those are some of the issues that have been raised in there. And Alfred, let me also add that beyond this document that we have, there's another document that is well over 120 pages, and that document contains all the permits that have been given to these companies. So
I see.
So the permit is more like a template. So I don't know if you can show that.
We're going to run, we'll just pull that through.
Yes.
Yes.
So when you look at it, it's just the same template. The only thing that differs is the name of the company and the dates. So it clearly spells out what you are allowed to do with the entry permits and what you are not supposed to do, and then with the fee that you are supposed to pay. And the fee payable, it's 500,000 per annum.
500,000 per annum.
Yeah.
Can you run through the names of these the companies that were captured between 2018 and 2019?
Okay.
So the details of this letter that we have is dated between 2018 and 2019.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So
and these are
Almingo Mining Resources Limited.
Okay.
Almingo Mining Resources Limited.
Almingo Mining.
And they were in the forest reserve of Kwaminsa. It is in the Ocansey municipality in the Ashanti region. And the date of issue was on the 14th of February 2018. And the date of expiry was 14th of February 2019. So that was for a 1-year period.
Okay.
You have Almingo again. They are also in Krokosua Hill. That is Dwabosu in the Ashanti region.
Right.
They also have their span between 14th of February 2018 to 14th of February 2019. The same Almingo again, somewhere in the Asinanyo, and that's also it's somewhere in the Ashanti region, spanning from 21st of March 2018 to 31st of December 2018. It runs through all up to the 47th company. 47th forest reserve, because mind you, some of the companies are in more than one forest reserve. Like I just mentioned, for the first 3, for instance, they operate in more than 3 forest reserves. So let's try and see if you can open that document just for the benefit of our viewers.
Indeed.
So that we can just run through it quickly together.
It's going to come up shortly. So this is it, right?
Yes.
This is it.
Exactly.
Okay, there you have it. So we'll try and pull it through, and yes.
But in this document too, there are also some familiar names that we have come across before.
Okay.
So names like Heritage Imperial Company Limited, which has been spoken about lately widely. So, okay. So move up.
Yeah, so this is it.
Right.
These are the companies, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And we have, so you've talked about Armingo. And they have, Armingo has, according to this report, between 2018, that's within the period of 2018, they were giving entry permit into what? 3 forest reserves.
Let's be sure that's not all, because the list still continues.
It continues? I see. So Armingo is not mentioned anywhere else.
Okay, there's Armingo Steel Mining Resources.
Steel Mining Resources.
That's quite different from this one, number 37.
Interesting stuff. I see.
But let's just run through the list.
Okay, please. We have the fourth one is what? Armsfield Company Limited.
Company Limited. We have DML Investments. We have King's Pep Mining Company Limited.
That's in the Odan River.
Odan River. That is repeated again. I mean, it's repeated. Then we have Heritage Imperial Company Limited.
Heritage,
that also has been, repeated. Volta Gilters Company Limited.
Okay.
That too has been repeated. We have Faso Multi Services Limited. That's been repeated. Roth Ventures Limited. That is also in there.
That's in the Odan. Roth has 2. That's Odan River and then Tano.
Yes, so it means that in the Odan River alone, you have, at least so far, there are 2 of them in there already. I mean, there are 2 different companies.
2 different companies
that have concessions in that particular reserve.
So we see the King's Pep, and then Rothel.
Yes.
Okay. And the Armsfield is in the Bia Toya area. Armingo has Asenanyo, Krokosua Hill, and then Kwamesa. Then what about Faso? Faso is also repeated twice.
Yes.
They have 2. They had 2 forest entry permits in 2018.
Yeah. One in the Western region and one in the Ashanti region. One, the date of issue was not indicated. In the other one, it was indicated as 9th of April 2018 to the 1st of December 2018.
And remember, for our viewers, all these we are mentioning are forest reserves. These are forest reserves that entry permits were given to mining companies to get into those forest reserves. Stay with us. We'll establish whether it is wrong to have been giving, or these forest, that's mining companies, been giving these entry permits to forest reserves. How many forest reserves are allowable to be mined in our laws? We'll establish that shortly. So we have JH Resources. Before that, we see Sky Galaxy Minerals Limited. Dennis?
Yes.
That's 26.
26, yes.
That's
there's
also
Sky Galaxy Limited, yes. There's GH Resources Exploration Ghana Company Limited. There's Kito Mining and Construction Limited. There's Global Elements Mining Limited. There's Ambi Limited. There's Transatlantic Logistics Limited. Heritage Energy Limited. E&J Properties and Trading. Heritage Imperial Company again. Roth Ventures again. Armingo Mining again. North Rock Limited. Geomin Mineral Company Limited. Then we have Cadmos Limited, Sky Galaxy Minerals Limited again, Ashanti Bauxite Limited, Transatlantic Logistics Limited, 21st Century Holdings Limited, Dignos Company Limited. Wow. Alfred, it's important to know that when the EPA was raising this red flag, it drew the attention of the Forestry Commission to what they call the operating guidelines for mineral exploration in forest reserves for selected companies.
Right.
Now, this particular guideline is a policy guideline that was adopted as far back as 2001.
Okay.
And that was supposed to allow some amount of mining in some forest reserves.
Okay.
That even though you're allowed to go into that space, you have to go in there with within a particular framework.
Right, and we'll establish that framework shortly. But it's also instructive to note, Dennis, that you see some of the dates of the issue of this forest entry permits by the Forestry Commission. That was a period that there was a ban, right, on small-scale mining, or really that's mining in this country. That 2-year period between 2017 and 2018. Take a look at this. Armingo had their date of issue when? This is the 14th of February.
Yes.
2018. At that time, there was still a ban. The ban was still in place on small-scale mining in this country, right? So What we've done is that...
So, Alfred, before you go there,
Great.
the other issue that was of concern to the EPA was the fact that when you look at all the time allowed for the permit, in almost all the instances, it's 1 year.
True.
But when you look at Heritage Imperial, number 35.
Number 35.
Yes, you would see that the date of issue of the permit was from 12th of November 2018 to 24th of October 2021.
Yeah, that's true.
That's clearly more than a year.
So that's Heritage Imperial. That's
for a period of 3 years. Again, when you look at, I think there was another one that I saw.
Okay, so
immediately that's the one I've been able to point out. So that was one of the concerns the EPA raised on that particular matter of some other companies getting more than the 1 year that was given to almost all the other companies.
Now, Dennis, stay with me on this. And it's good that you establish all of these so that our viewers will understand why this is a concern, and especially the period under review. We have no clear evidence that these companies are still, that is, in these forest reserves, especially because of the statement I played by the president indicating that there is no mining currently going on in forest reserve. This statement he made in January when the Akonta mining issue came up. Okay, let's get some perspective to this. Let's go on to the telephone. Dr. Henry Kokofu is the Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. They come in quite strongly because some of the documents that we have referred to tonight is from them. Dr. Kokofu, thank you for your time on Ghana Tonight. First of all, I want to find out from you, at what point does the EPA raise red flags about the number of permits that you see being given to companies to get into forest reserves in this country?
Well, let me say good evening to your viewers on the set. I did not get the import of your question well and properly, but I'll try to answer or explain.
Okay.
The process of getting mining license, whether for prospecting or actual mining license or permit, works with the Minerals Commission of Ghana. Indeed, they have the mandate to regulate the mining of minerals in the country, for and on behalf of the government and the people of Ghana.
Right.
So we as Environmental Protection Agency, we are enjoined by law to issue what we call environmental permits to those who have concessions for mining or prospecting of mining of minerals. And we do so when the applicant so applies. So as to how many permits are going out or are being issued, in order we do not have control over them. However, we have general jurisdiction over the protection and safeguarding of the entire environment, including both the biophysical and the physical.
Right.
We do scrutinize applicants or applications asking for prospecting, environmental permit for prospecting or going into actual mining before the Minerals Commission can issue out the mining permits. That's the last bit of it. We work closely with Minerals Commission on this slide and also with Water Resources Commission. Our main concern and preposition dwells on the concerns raised or to be raised on potential environmental degradation or damage when we undertake what we call stakeholder engagement or community participation as we receive such applications. So we do not have control over how many permits to be issued, but we only come in to issue environmental permit when all is said and done.
I think that's clear, but what I want to find out from you is, for the forest reserves, the emphasis is on the forest reserves. What do you take into consideration in, as it were, giving the environmental permit to these mining companies to get in there, even though they have an entry permit from the Forestry Commission?
Well, when it comes to forest reserves, the owner, in quote, is the Forestry Commission. So even though the granting of the mining or mineral prospecting of mining permits read to Minerals Commission, the Forestry Commission will have to convince itself that it is so okay, or it is so good for the company to enter into the forest. So they give them what we call entry permit before they get to them. Our concern again is to see how potential environmental damages will occur, and if any, and always there are many, the mitigating aspects within our schedules. When we give the permits out, we have what we call schedules, the do's and the don'ts. They are all spelled out there. With mining in the forest reserve, the argument has been that is it proper, both economically and environmental management point of view, is it proper to mine in the forest reserve? For about 2 or 3 decades, it was settled by the then government through a policy initiative that said that at least 2% of the forest reserves can be mined, and it will not affect the integrity of the forest estate. That has been the policy that runs through up to today. So the Forestry Commission, through Forestry Service Division, is guided by this particular policy directive. As to the 2% is too much or is necessary, or it is even not enough, that one is a matter of discussion.
I see.
By all. So we at EPA, we will always come in when the primary regulators ascertain that it is viable for them to give the applicant or the applicant for a mining concession. You will come in and then look at the environmental aspect through environmental assessment report or impact statement. Then we can prescribe mitigation and all that. There are times we have said no. There are many times EPA has said no, we will not give you the environmental permit. At that point, it is expected that the Minerals Commission permit or the Forestry Commission entry permit then is frozen. You cannot use them when EPA has said no. So basically, that's the situation.
I see. But so if you say the law says, or the law allows 2% of mining to take place in forest reserves, what we are saying here is entry permits given to 47, Dennis, correct? Yes, 47 mining companies to get into all the forest reserves we have in this country. But let me establish this. How many forest reserves do we have in this country? Because we see 47 forest reserves listed in this document that we have.
Well, I do not want to assume they know all. This question must go to the Forestry Commission, particularly through the Forest Service Division.
I see. Well, thank you. But your institution had cause to raise concerns about the number of entry permits the Forestry Commission is giving. So I appreciate your time. But you've confirmed a number of things. That's 2% of mining. But Dr. Henry Kokofu heads the Environmental Protection Agency. Dennis.
Yes, Alfred. So when you look at the policy that he just referred to, we talked about the 2%. The guidelines, so if you permit me, I'll read something for you.
Please.
It may even be less than the 2% that we are imagining, because the guidelines clarify that majority of forest reserves are divided into conservation, and by conservation they mean areas which have been targeted for replanting, production, And by production, they mean where timber extraction is permitted, and protection, that is untouchable areas. Now, it means that the whole forest reserve has been divided into three categories: conversion, production, and then protection. Right. Now, this policy established that a 2% limit on exploration and mining in the production area of the forest. I don't know if you get it.
That's the production area.
So there's a conversion area, there is a production area, and there's a protection area. The 2% is on the production area. So when you look at it on the generality of it, it will not seem like the 2% of all the forest reserve, but 2% of the production bit, which is just 1/3 of the whole forest area. So it's like 2% of 1/3 of it.
I see. That explains why Prof. Frimpong-Boateng raised concerns about
it's a genuine concern.
47 forest entry permits that the Forestry Commission under Sir John Kojo-Free gave to these 47 companies we have just given to you. Other aspects. Dennis, we have copies of the permits.
Yes.
Right? The permits that were issued to these 47
I mentioned that earlier,
companies.
well over 120 pages.
120 pages.
Each specifying who has got what permit at what time.
Super.
But let's put on record that these were just within the period of 2018 and 2019. If anything happened contrary to what we have here afterwards, we are unable to speak to. Early in the year, the president mentioned that there's no mining ongoing in any forest reserve. That was early this year. So we take that to be what it is, unless we are able to disprove that.
Super. Dennis, thank you. Dennis Wedam, Suda Research and then also planning, news planning. Appreciate your time as always, Dennis.